So this council's handling of the East Bristol Liveable Neighbourhood has been chaotic, misleading and deeply damaging. For almost a year, Barton Hill, one of the most deprived communities in the country, has been subjected to uncertainty, gridlocked traffic and failing access. Local businesses are on the brink and the health centre has been effectively cut off. Local leadership has failed. Councillors who should be leading have been absent, consumed by ideology or actively stoking division within the community instead of listening and bringing people together. That is not leadership. Engagement has been inconsistent and in some cases demonstrably untrue. Emergency services concerns were ignored until they reached the public domain. A promised 6-month trial has become an open-ended experiment drifting towards 2027. Even now, there is no clarity on how a final decision will be made. Pollution has increased, businesses are collapsing, and traffic displacement isn't even being properly monitored. This is not evidence-led policy, it is reckless governance. People here are not thriving, they are simply surviving. Enough is enough. Enough confusion, make a decision now. So I can see that you've replied to my first question regarding the changes to the Avonvale bus gate. Now, I don't know how aware you are of the, it's a bit of a maze around Redfield in the different roads which go up and down. I mean, I live in the middle of it, and I can see already that just the moving of that bus gate is going to cause increased issues with rat runs. You say you haven't designed it yet. Can you confirm whether it is just a move of that bus gate from the left-hand side, should we say, of Avonvale to the right-hand side of Avonvale, or is it going to be an additional changes with the routes around? Because I can see at the moment, as soon as you move that bus gate, you say you can't turn right. You can go straight up the road, turn right, and right again, and you've completely bypassed it. So have you actually taken any of that in consideration? And is that your only change, just the bus gate? Thank you.
No, there's a number of other changes being proposed, including the bus gate on Marsh Street. That's exactly Marsh Lane. Sorry. That's exactly why we're taking our time to get this right, because we don't want to see those unintended consequences. The intention is to move it slightly eastwards, but still protect Mildred Street, which is, I think, at risk of becoming a rat run. And I don't know if that's the road you're talking about. And if it goes beyond that, I'm sorry that I don't have a sort of A to Z. But the whole point of this is to try and do it well. We've seen what happened on Goodhine Street, where a slight tweak to the bus gate meant that we've now had people living particularly on Goodhine Street and the surrounding streets overwhelmed with traffic. I'm pretty confident that the other change, Marsh Lane, is going to sort that out. We're doing a few other tweaks, including making things, some of the what are currently planters and bollards into AMPR enforced cameras. And I think the most important thing here to say to everyone is that when that comes to consultation, we absolutely want to hear your views, because that's the whole point of doing consultation, and that's why we're taking our time to get it right and making sure we continue to listen to people as well as the data. So thanks for your question, and I do encourage you to get involved with the consultation, but we're not rushing into a decision. We're trying to actually get the design right. So thanks.
What's your next supplementary?
I'd just like to reply to that. You say you're listening to us. I was actually told by my local councillor that they were too. They didn't have enough time to reply to emails, such long emails that required no action. So actually, I don't know how much you are listening to that, or your colleagues either. And just secondly, my second supplemental question, just regarding the extension of the trial. Now, you've changed. So I don't know if you changed the wording. I'll have to double check this. That it was a 6-month monitoring phase. So. And it's gone from a trial, or is it a monitoring? And the problem is with that is that we're all trying to plan our lives. So we thought we get here in 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. 6 months later is now going to be a year later. It's disingenuous to keep pushing that goalpost back and back and back. How are we supposed to be able to plan our lives? And also, we know businesses. I've spoken to Hamlin's Fish and Chip Shop again today. He is on the brink. He is on the brink. So to move it back even further, you're going to push him. You're going to destroy the community.
So can we just get to your supplementary question?
So
we've got quite a few to get through.
Do you think it's disingenuous that you have pushed it back again to the residents of Barton Hill? Is it fair?
What we came into was permanent TROs for the TROs before I don't know. Before May 2024, the TROs were made permanent by the previous administration. So we now have a situation where we didn't do an experimental traffic regulation order, which is what happens in many places where you do livable neighbourhoods or low traffic neighbourhoods. We are left with a permanent TRO. That means that we've got to go through a proper due process to change the TROs. I'm going to make no secret of the fact that I was making sure that the report for the East Bristol Liveable Neighbourhood was expedited to this committee, and we adjusted resources so that we could get it through, and I was aiming for March this year. When we've announced the changes, I think they're good changes, and I think by and large the public reaction I've seen has been actually a quietening of the debate, because I think we've attacked is the wrong word, We've addressed some of the biggest concerns with the East Bristol Liveable Neighbourhood. But that does mean we have to go through a due process. There's two things we're doing. One is we're redesigning and doing the TRO I've said, so I won't go on about that. But we also now have to rewrite the full business case based on the changes we're making. We're doing that at pace, and I'm trying to make sure that we're dovetailing with the review of the Weckham Mayor's review of the East Bristol Liveable Neighbourhood, so that the two things arrive on our desks collectively at the same time. The Weckham Mayor's made it very clear that they're not going to release funding for the East Bristol Liveable Neighbourhood until that independent review is completed, which I believe is April, but let's say spring for now. And so we're doing everything we can to make sure that that full business case is completed in line with that, so that we can come to some sort of timely decision a couple of months after that. I completely appreciate that this is a long time for people to be waiting.
Sorry, Matt, you've had your supplementary questions now. So
we've given grants to the small businesses. We are listening to them, and that's one of the reasons why the changes that were proposed. That's one of the reasons why the changes we're proposing. We are proposing specifically because, unlike a lot of the national evidence, it appears that those businesses were quite dependent on cars driving past, and so we're now going to open up that route to allow the cars to continue to drive past.
Right, thank you, Councillor Plowden. I think we move on.
I just want to finish.
Okay,
it's been a
very
surprise
quickly,
for us,
please.
because in most of the national evidence, and indeed the evidence from places like Princess Victoria Street and a number of other places in Bristol, the evidence is that this sort of intervention actually benefits local traders. Thank you.
I'm a disabled resident being further disabled by this council's actions. What you call a monitoring exercise, we are living as a dangerous and discriminatory experiment. The 2027 monitoring report is a sham. It admits that equality's impacts, the very factors determining if I can safely leave my home, have not yet been assessed. To implement a scheme and check for discrimination later is not just an oversight, it is a systemic negligence. Most critically, fire service access problems remain. Every planter and block is a minute added to emergency response. You are gambling with our lives for the sake of traffic metrics. While you monitor data, our businesses are on the brink of closure, and disabled residents are trapped in a fractured neighbourhood. Even Wessel's recommendations, immediate net changes, have not been addressed. The trial was meant to be 6 months. It has now been extended into late 2026 by stealth. We are being bullied into accepting crumbs while our community is divided and our safety is compromised. I urge you, stop the constant extensions, conduct an immediate independent safety audit of emergency access. Our lives are not data points. Stop the harm and return our community to us. Thank you. If you've known since November the 7th about these fire service delays, why has immediate action still not been taken, given the potential life-critical implications of these delays?
We are taking action. We are working to renew the TROs that were made permanent, and we are proposing to take out a number of the bollards and turn them into ANPR enforced modal filters instead.
Yeah, no, I know what you're proposing to do, but why hasn't it been done?
Because we need to go through the proper process. These things are governed by a TRO, and we have to redesign that TRO and reconsult on a new TRO. If we were to bring forward proposals to do anything on the highway without a TRO would be out of the law, that would not be legal, and I'm sure many people in this chamber today would be the first people to tell us that that was a completely out of order way to go about things. But we've announced significant changes to the East Bristol Liveable Neighbourhood, as you know, and that will open up a route between Feeder Road and the St Philip's Causeway. It will open up the road in front of the shops, which we absolutely want to protect and ensure that they thrive. And we've made a whole load of other amendments, which I think demonstrates we are indeed listening to what people are saying, which you have to accept that there's many people who are very happy and about the EBLN. So we're trying to listen to everyone, but we can't please everyone.
Adi, if your next supplementary question?
My next supplementary question is, you state this is for our health and safety, yet data shows 0 accidents in 5 years, and many residents' health is being affected more by being inside your social housing in the area with mould. So this isn't about our health. When will your words turn to actions to fix the real issues, including Wessel's recommended changes?
So, as regard health and safety, as you know, using the Department for Transport and the HM Treasury's guidance on appraisal for transport schemes, the East Bristol Liveable Neighbourhood has a return of £11 to the public, mostly in terms of public health for every pound spent. We are dealing with an area with some of the highest levels of childhood obesity, which is, if left untreated, will lead to lifelong problems. This council, Barry, sitting next to me, has been faced with a momentous task following the findings of the social housing regulator to try and bring our practices back into safety and to make sure that our housing is being made safe. So we're doing what we can to improve public health across this area, and while still listening to people and making the changes to the East Bristol Liveable Neighbourhood that seem sensible and proportionate. And I'd like to remind everyone that actually the data collected by ARUP and the assessment of that data done by an independent third party shows that broadly the East Bristol Liveable Neighbourhood is meeting its strategic intentions, which was the very clear single sentence that came out of that report looking at the data. So we're doing a very difficult job of trying to balance listening to the data on the one side, which shows, according to independent experts, that we're having an impact. And that's just after 6 months, let's remember. These things generally should be judged after 1 year to 2 years. And on the other hand, we're listening to the people. And we're also working with the emergency services. And I think the thing I'd like to say about the Freedom of Information request is that it doesn't really look at what the performance was before. It does identify some areas, some instances where the fire service in particular were delayed. If you look at the average, the ambulance service in 2 of the 3 areas actually improved their response times, and the fire service on average has gone up by 30 seconds, and I'm confident that will come down again when we put in the changes that we've already announced. Subject, of course, to consultation, which is what we're doing at the moment, designing, making sure it's legally enforceable, and then going out to consultation, because we are left with a permanent TRO, and we cannot make those changes to the highways without following due legal process. Thanks for your question, Melissa.
Thank you.
Hi. My statement is about the Cumberland Road bus gate. This picture shows the signage at the East Bristol Liveable Neighbourhood bus gates, 6 of them, and the signage at the city centre bus gates is almost the same. This picture shows the Cumberland Road bus gate. It's not quite as good, is it? Perhaps that is why in 2024 this was the most contravened bus gate in the entire country, issued 62,000 penalty charge notices, which is 30 times the national average. Last year it issued 20,000, which is still 10 times the national average. This sign at the bottom does comply with the bare minimum legal requirements, which is why the council has not lost tribunal appeals on that basis, though I have won 15 other tribunal appeals based on other signage. But if the council considers it worth spending money on yellow signs like this at every other bus gate, why has it still not improved the signs at the worst bus gate in the entire country?
Thank you.
My first question, I pointed out that on 10th of July at the Transport Committee meeting, Mr Sean Taylor, the head of highways, told the assembled councillors the enforcement of the Cumberland Road bus gate has now dropped considerably and is in line with other bus gates within the city. Are you able to show the response? Well, everyone has been sent the papers. There's a chart which shows that last year Cumberland Road issued nearly 20,000 bus penalty charge notices.
Right, that's fine. Can we just get to your supplementary question, please?
Okay, well, the chart shows that Mr Sean Taylor lied to the Transport Committee on 10th of July, so I won't waste a supplementary question on that, because I'll just submit an official complaint to the head of paid services. But my second question was about the signs at Cumberland Road being completely different to the ones at other bus gates, even though the traffic signs manual says there should be consistent signage within a particular area.
Get to the question, please.
So my question for Councillor Plowden then, in my original question, I quoted 4 technical reasons that council officers are given for not doing this. All of those technical reasons are rubbish, and they haven't even tried to defend them in their response. So what is the reason not to make the signage at Cumberland Road the same as it is at all the other bus gates?
I think you have had an answer. You may just not agree with it. The answer was very clear that this is the site-specific conditions apply. There was utilities under the ground, which meant that the place in which the pole could be placed was limited. The private land means that if we were to use that full sign, it would overhang the private land, and it would also and then there's also, because this is on the new cut, it's not like a sheltered place where many of these signs are. There's actually an assessment done for wind bearing. I think there's probably a couple of other things in there, but I'm summarising the key issues, Matt. I think you've heard these many, many times. You've very much look at the traffic signs manual and TSRGD, the traffic signs and regulations and general directions, which give guidance. But what the officers have to do is a very difficult job of making sure that actually every single site is thought about as an individual site, and do a case-by-case design to make sure that that sign is safe and appropriate. And as you know, we've won a lot more of the appeals than we've lost on the basis that that is a legal way of going about it. I do agree with you that we should be as consistent as we can, and that's something we're working on.
Thank you, and that concludes public. You know, because you asked your first question, you didn't want a response to it. Ask your second question quickly, then we must move on.
Okay. Have you got the officer responses for the second and third ones? Well, the officer response to question 2 was the bus gate is appropriately signed and officers are not planning any further changes. But then in their response to question 3, they said that they are doing new signage. And I was told in July at the Transport Committee that they were going to do some new signage, and Officer Plowden offered to send it to me as soon as it was ready. It was sent to me on the 10th of September, 10 minutes before the next Transport Committee, so I couldn't actually say anything about it at that meeting. Okay, here we are. These are the drawings that were sent to me in September showing proposed changes to signage at Cumberland Road Busgate, and actually they say they were drawn in May last year, which is 8 months ago. So the drawings were issued 4 months ago, they were drawn 8 months ago. The statutory guidance of the Traffic Management Act says that if the council identifies reasonable... I'm asking the question.
Well, it's very long-winded. Can you just...
Yes, I could have done it by now. If the council can identify reasonable improvements to signage which would reduce the number of contraventions, then during the enforcement should be suspended until those signs and changes have been made. You designed this 8 months ago.
If you don't answer the question now, we'll cut you off and we'll move on. So
okay.
Answer the question.
Why have you not suspended the enforcement at the bus gate since you have confirmed by designing these signs that the existing signs are not good enough,
Right.
and
That's
yet
your
you are
question.
still
Thank you. Let's
fighting
let
cases
Councillor
saying it
Plowden
is.
answer very quickly.
As I think
please.
you well know, Matt, the signs that you're holding up are not the signs at the immediate bus gate, as far as I'm concerned. They're signs around the area to offer general guidance, and they've simplified the signs. So that's not the signs that are used specifically to enforce the contravention. They're the signs that help people, guide
can you
people
not
around the
interrupt?
city
Let
in other
Councillor-
places.
Councillor
So I think
Plowden
you're
answer,
mixing
please.
two different things that we're talking about here in a way that is very, very clever in that it makes it look like that we're not following the guidance. But actually, the signs fulfil a different purpose from that which you're talking about. Thank you.
Thank
A livable neighbourhood is planned for Southville despite the ill-considered chaos imposed on East Bristol. Threats to small businesses, more concentrated pollution and gridlock are underway there. I speak for all the small businesses in Southville whose opinions are ignored and which give the place the life it has and make it a livable neighbourhood. I also speak for disabled and older people whose lives will be made considerably more isolated by the new parking rules. There is continual emphasis on getting on a bike when to a huge proportion of people, this is not a safe or feasible option. Siphoning traffic into limited arteries and stopping logical flow
20 seconds, Eleanor.
causes further pollution and extra expense and time for those who must take taxis and live without a car or adequate bus system. Southville is a livable green neighbourhood within a city, and your fixed agenda is destructive and stopping the city working as a whole. If
Thank you.
I'd wished to
Your
live in an
minute's up now,
isolated
Eleanor.
cul-de-sac
Thank you. We'll be
fed
moving
by a
on.
Deliveroo bike with no local shops,
Thank you,
I would
Eleanor.
have chosen somewhere else.
Thank you.
Bristol City Council's transport policy is illogical and harmful. Michael Pott's research shows that fewer cars said to increase trade for local businesses is based on biased cherry-picking of the evidence. These errors have caused direct harm to local businesses through the EBLN. This is about business survival and livability, and cosmetic alterations to pavements will make no difference to their financial viability. Supermarkets and retail parks with easy access and free parking survive and thrive. Small family-run business, which are greener, friendlier and support local community, do not. Losing local business means fewer job opportunities close to home. People have to travel further, and they have to travel, which defeats the council's objective of people walking and cycling everywhere, and inadequate bus services don't help. The council must understand local businesses need to thrive to reduce congestion, or the mistakes made in East Bristol will be repeated writ large with the SBLN.
Thank you. Your time's up now.
And it is only a trial scheme, so we will work with stakeholders to make sure that when the trial is completed after 6 months, we can see what the best future plans will be. Initial implementation of the scheme is due to be completed by January 2025. The Council will then monitor the scheme for 6 months before re-engaging with the community regarding a proposed permanent scheme.